11 Republican attorneys general, local leaders, other leaders at the border will be kicked off by our chairman, Chip Kobach.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's a pleasure for us to be here. It's a personal pleasure for me. Some of you might know, back in 2010, I co-authored SB 1070 with the late Senator Russell Pierce, which really put Arizona on the map as the state that was leading state-level efforts to stop illegal immigration and assist the federal government. In the intervening 15 years, so much has happened, but without question, the worst 4 years of those 15 years were the years of the Biden administration. That was not a border crisis that just happened like an act of nature. It was an intentional event caused by policies made in Washington, D.C. to not enforce certain laws and to order immigration agents to violate laws and to violate their own oaths of office. During that period of those 4 years, the people standing behind me, along with some of my other colleagues who are not here from states like Florida and Louisiana and Texas, we were the rear guard of trying to restore some rule of law in immigration enforcement. And to give you specific examples, the very first lawsuit that was filed after the Biden administration took office was filed by Texas, a group of states led by Texas, to stop Biden's illegal 100-day pause in deportations. That violates several federal statutes. The last one of the Biden administration that was filed led by Kansas, with all the other states behind me involved, to stop the Biden administration from giving Obamacare benefits to the tune of about $3,800 a person a year to certain categories of illegal aliens. And in between, there were many other lawsuits. There were a total of 31 lawsuits, and the Republican states won the vast majority of those suits. Now we're in a very different situation. We have an administration that not only is willing to enforce the law, is willing to reverse all those policies, but is actually aggressively enforcing the law and cooperating with foreign countries in a way that the previous administration had no interest in doing. And so we are playing a very different role now. We're not playing a role of trying to force the federal government to do its job and to abide by the law, but rather we're trying to help the federal government restore the rule of law to immigration. And I would characterize our role as principally that of a force multiplier. We're also a legal. We write amicus briefs supporting the administration, supporting other entities that are taking the law enforcement side of immigration cases. But in terms of one of the things that we're doing that has a significant impact on the ground, it's being a force multiplier. We're standing next to what arguably is one of the most important force multipliers for the Border Patrol, which is at the border. Having this fence, as we just discussed, is a massive force multiplier. But in the interior of the country, probably the biggest force multiplier for ICE is state and local law enforcement through Section 287G agreements. Through these agreements, which were created by Act of Congress in 1996, ICE can enter into an agreement where state and local deputies or officers can exercise federal law enforcement powers, including initiating removal proceedings, determining immigration status, taking custody of aliens on behalf of the federal government. And 10 states, immediately after the Trump administration took office, 10 states acted very quickly to sign 287G agreements because the Trump administration is undertaking this massive task of the largest interior removal since the Eisenhower administration. And those 10 states were Kansas, Texas, Iowa, Montana, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, and Virginia, and Florida. And today, 3 of my colleagues are going to be announcing that their states are joining the ranks. And when I say the states have 287G agreement, I mean state law enforcement agencies, like the Montana State Troopers, like the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, like Texas DPS. So this is a massive force multiplier because you have a statewide agency that's able to coordinate and work with sheriff's deputies and others in helping ICE enforce in the interior of the country. I'll let my colleagues, the 3 who are going to be joining the ranks of the 10 states that have already done so, tell you about it. But I'll simply end with this, and that is the states, we continue, the states here continue to stand by the federal government for the enforcement of the law, and we will do whatever it takes to restore the rule of law in immigration. And Section 287G, which is today we're announcing the expansion of more states, is an important part of that. Thank you. And next up,
Steve Marshall.
Thank you, Chairman Kobach. Privileged to be here today with my colleagues. I want to say a special word of thanks to those brave men and women of our federal immigration enforcement. They've given us a wonderful briefing today. What we see is the shackles are off and allowing them to be able to do their job, to be able to keep our borders secure. You know, Alabama's not a border state, but we're impacted by an insecure border. We've seen it from the loss of life of fentanyl. We've seen it by the increased risk of violent crime on our streets. And President Trump entered into his term less than 4 months ago with a promise to be able to secure the border and secure our communities across America, and we've seen that happen. We've seen the tangible results in border encounters decreased by 93%. Gotaways, that scary group for which we know not who they are or where they're going, decreased by almost 95%. There has been an impact, not because we've changed the law, but we changed the leader. And we've enabled immigration enforcement to do their jobs and to be able to do it effectively. And my colleagues and I have been that last line of defense against the Biden administration immigration policy for the last 4 years. We're really proud of the multiple lawsuits that we filed and the impact that we made. And my colleagues will talk about that today. One of the areas for Alabama in which we were able to lead is trying to preserve the common sense rules of the Trump administration relating to those claiming asylum, to make sure that there's some standard for courts to be able to evaluate, for some proof for somebody claiming asylum to be able to meet. We've seen that egregious nature of sue and settle, which was so effective during the Obama administration, and frankly, we learned our lesson. We've now intervened in those cases, and particularly in 2 cases in which the left attempted to circumvent those common sense Trump rules. We've been able to preserve those standards and keep our community safer. I'm immensely proud of the collective effort of all of my Republican colleagues and look forward now to be able to support the common sense policy of the Trump administration that will keep our borders secure and our communities safe. Now I'd like to introduce my colleague from the state of Indiana, Todd Rokita.
Thank you, A.G. Marshall. I'm Todd Rokita, Attorney General for the state of Indiana. Just started my second 4-year term. This is also my 4th time at the border. I'm here for a couple of reasons. After the first 3 times collecting evidence, Indiana became the first non-border, quote-unquote, state to file a lawsuit against what we term the lawless Biden administration. Why? Because even in Indiana, when you don't have a border, when your federal officials are demoralized and not allowed to enforce the law, every state is a border state. And that certainly was the case in Indiana. That lawsuit still goes on because Indiana is still incurring damage from what's happened over the last 4 years. And now our efforts in the Attorney General's office there take on sanctuary cities. And yes, we have them. We have a few in the state of Indiana. Labor trafficking, which is part of human trafficking, we think may be going on in the state of Indiana. We're going to find out. And we're going to be fearless in our resolve to get to the bottom of it. And even though the damage is still going on, I want to be very clear. It is night and day. On this 4th trip to the border, I can share with you that the morale of these federal law enforcement officials is completely changed for the better. They're allowed, as Attorney General Marshall said, they're allowed to do their jobs now. And that's made all the difference. And like Attorney General Marshall said, the law hasn't changed at all. The leadership has. And that is to say we have a leader in President Trump. So my second reason for being here is to thank him publicly for what he's done, what Pam Bondi's doing, for our friend, Kristi Noem, another friend, what she's doing. We have a great team in place to restore law and order. And why? Why is this so important? Let me finish with a story. A teacher that came to me now about a year ago, with tears in her eyes, crying because she was retiring, and she was much too young to retire. Because as we know, teaching is supposed to be a great profession. Why was she retiring? Because every day in her Indiana school, thousands of miles from this wall, she was getting a new list of students who shouldn't be in her classroom. Names she could barely pronounce. And then she was made for the whole hour to dial an 800 number. She got different interpreters depending on the child who wasn't supposed to be there. Not necessarily the child's fault, of course. They weren't supposed to be there. And that means that taxpayers' kids who were in the class weren't being taught either. I'm here for her, to defend her profession, and the nurses and doctors who have overflowing emergency rooms right now, and our Indiana law enforcement whose jails are overflowing. We have no reason, no right, and no ability anymore to be the world's doormat. And it stops in Indiana, and it stops with my fellow attorneys general who are speaking with us today. I thank them, every one of them, in every one of these states for their leadership. With that, let me introduce you to Brenna Berg in her first term as Attorney General, a true leader in her own right, from a Midwestern state as well, the state of Iowa. Brenna?
Thank you. Thanks. Well, it's great to be here from Iowa, and I bring you gratitude and thanks from the state of Iowa. As a mom, a prosecutor, and Iowa's Attorney General, here today and seeing the wall, how effective it is, hearing from those law enforcement that work the border telling us that catch and release is over and what that means. It is tremendous, and you might wonder why. Well, under Biden, every state was a border state, and I think Iowa is just about as far as you can get from an international border, but Iowa was having border state problems. And I bring you thanks from Iowa to all of our Border Patrol, our law enforcement, the sheriffs here. We stand with you. We are so grateful for you. Because with this great enforcement, started by President Trump and with support from General Bondi and Kristi Noem, we are seeing effects and will continue to see effects in Iowa. We are seeing less cartel activity, drugs transactions interrupted, and then you also have the impact on human trafficking, which strikes close to all of our hearts. And hearing from Border Patrol, the people they're catching crossing the border with criminal records, whether it's wife beaters, whether it's drug dealers, other violent criminals that they are catching, they are keeping America safe with their work. So we thank them. They are heroes with a good heart, and they have persevered through the tough times and times when they had a leader in the White House, President Trump, who backed them up and understood their mission, and he supports enforcing the law and securing the border. So thank you from Iowa for that. I was also glad to help support President Trump with what he's doing for birthright citizenship, returning that to a common sense policy, because no one should be rewarded for breaking the law. And I stand here today with AGs from across the country, just in thanks to our administration and in thanks to the people who do the work every single day here on the border to keep us safe. Because every single criminal that gets arrested in the Yuma sector is going to come someday to one of our states and hurt someone. Whether they rape them, whether they kill with fentanyl, or other types of violent crimes. We are preventing crime by having a secure border. And Iowa stands with you. Thank you. I'd like to introduce next fellow prosecutor Russell Coleman from Kentucky.
Thank you, General. This is what leadership at the border looks like. Leadership from the Trump administration. We stand in a spot that a briefing just advised us on average 1,500 crossings a day during the dark years of the Biden administration, down to 4 illegal crossings a day. That is a product of solid leadership from our president, amazing leadership from the men and women who stand behind me, and as these colleagues will attest, so oftentimes at press conferences like this, those that do the real most dangerous work that bring us here are standing behind the cameras. So my hat is off. Our hats are off to those who wear the green, who wear the brown, those who are out here with a badge and a gun late at night when we are safe in our beds. The border's a long way from bourbon country. It's a long way from Kentucky. But we lost 1,400 Kentuckians last year to drug-related death, 2,000 the year before. Every one of those from poison that came over a border that looks just like this. One at a time, the lack of border security has resulted in empty chairs at kitchen tables, empty seats at pews, and workers not clocking in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. This is a tough environment down here. Those that are standing in front of me and standing behind me, difficult environment that we ask men and women to serve in every day. This has been a combat zone in a previous administration. So I want to end with where I started and just say thank you. Thank you to the Trump administration for making Kentucky safer because this border is more secure. And I want to thank my colleagues behind me for their incredible leadership. Ending with an example of just a few weeks ago, as we collectively identified, far from this border, but a mechanism by which fentanyl could enter this country via the mail, a loophole that allowed fentanyl, that allowed products under $100 to enter this country without any inspection at all. These men and women joined with me seeking for the Trump administration to address that. They did so within days, these packages coming from China and from Taiwan. So it's not just in tough environments like this, it is across the board that we've had fantastic partnership, and I, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the Commonwealth, am grateful for that. With that, we're going to move our run of show up a bit, and I'm going to call up a colleague that many of us look to for his leadership, his steady leadership. I'm going to ask the Attorney General of Montana, Austin Knudsen, to join me today.
Thank you all for being here. It's a little warmer down here than Roosevelt County, Montana, but I appreciate my colleagues being down here. I really appreciate the great hard work of Customs and Border Patrol, of ICE. They're absolutely instrumental in this. Montana is a border state. We're a northern border state. We've got 600 miles of northern border that our professionals at Customs and Border Patrol keep safe every day. But I know a lot of those agents. And during the Biden administration, many of them were rotated down here to put in pretty lengthy shifts. I heard the challenges. They were very, very frustrated. We had a lot of early retirements. We had a lot of just agents who just flat quit because they were demoralized. Why does Montana care about what's going on at the southern border? Well, I'll tell you why. During the Biden administration, Montana's fentanyl seizures went up 20,000%. Cartel fentanyl into Montana went up 20,000%. During those same 4 years, Montana's official count of overdose but just the resources that they are now giving to our professionals down here to secure our border. We heard it in our briefing earlier. Customs and Border Patrol says from their own lips, they've never had the support and the resources they're getting now. This is about President Trump making promises and keeping them. He said he was going to secure the border. He said he was going to end welfare benefits for illegals in this country. I was proud to lead one of those lawsuits, but on his first day, almost right away, President Trump signed an executive order doing away with welfare benefits for illegals under the Biden Remain in Place rule. This is a game changer down here. I can't tell you the difference that I personally have seen. So very proud to stand here with all of my colleagues. At this point, I'm going to call up my neighbor, my good friend, the Attorney General from North Dakota, Drew Wrigley.
Thanks, Austin. Thanks, everybody. It's everything been said, but just not by everybody yet. So I'm going to give you the same thing again. Not actually, but I'm going to point this out. Here we are at the northern border in North Dakota, and we too are impacted very negatively by what policies have been in recent years until change came with President Trump and with his administration. Fentanyl pills that make it their way to North Dakota on average cost 5 cents, 10 cents coming across this border, and they sell them in North Dakota for $60, $70, or $80 depending on the day. It doesn't take long to get up there. It's about a 2-day drive. The incentive is very strong, and we need that. We need that interior enforcement. We need enforcement at this border. I know we're all heartened by what we've heard about the changes in policies and then the change in the results. I've been in public life for a lot of years. I was United States Attorney twice. Before becoming Attorney General. I've flown on this border in Black Hawk helicopters and talked about the issues of this border. We all watched in horror during the Biden administration and the policies. And what's not lost on the American people, it's sure not lost on the people of North Dakota. Solutions, they're not even that complicated. They're simple. They're just not easy. Standing in the way almost every time are politicians, political leaders who refuse to do difficult things to protect, in this case, to protect the people of the United States, and that's changed. And people right here today, I think one of our missions needs to be to branch that out, because the American people, I don't think they're of two minds on this issue. They've come around to the issue that This is a serious problem. We've got millions of people that pose danger to the people of North Dakota and all the states. And there's something that is being done about it at this border. Super results. But we've got an interior in this country that has millions of people that we have no idea how, well, we know how they got in. We don't know what they're up to. There got to be serious efforts undertaken. General Kovacs mentioned 3 states are going to be joining in the 287G efforts. North Dakota is one of those states. We're going to be joining because even there on the interior of this great nation, we've got the same issues. We face the same dilemmas posed by this flood of illegal immigration that's come across this border. So hats off to the men and women in uniform. As I said, they're out here, difficult conditions, doing important work. And now, moving forward, keep that going, but also the important work in the interior to extract from this country people who pose a clear and a present danger to the United States. Thank you. Next, you're going to hear from my friend and colleague, Alan Wilson, the Attorney General of South Carolina. He's kind of new at this. Yeah, there he is.
Thank you. Thank you, General. So I'm Alan Wilson. I'm the Attorney General for the great state of South Carolina. I'm in my 4th term. I'm actually the longest serving Attorney General in the country right now, and I'm honored to be standing up here with my dear friends and colleagues. I want to start by saying this. You look at this wall right here. This wall just isn't the border wall for the U.S. and Arizona and Mexico. This is the border wall for South Carolina and Mexico and everything that comes across it. This is the border wall for every state up here and every state in the country. Because even though this is physically located here, the policies set here at this wall, at this location, they flow to the natural end state, and those are the interior states of the U.S. Last year, we had a number of drug trafficking cases, and there was one case in particular where we, from a historical perspective, over a 4.5-year period, we discovered that there was a drug trafficking ring that led to 540 kilos of fentanyl, 850 kilos of cocaine, and 500 kilos of methamphetamine that were pouring in from South Carolina, all originating with cartel activity. And the one thing that we can all agree on is that good policy incentivizes good conduct, bad policy incentivizes bad conduct. And the policies, and I've been here through 3 different presidential administrations, 1 Republican and 2 Democrat. Obama, Trump's first one, Biden, and now Trump's 2nd term. And I have seen a distinct incentivization of the horrible conduct that has fed the drug trafficking, fentanyl trafficking, human trafficking, and all other illicit activity. In just one case, we seized over enough fentanyl to kill 2 million South Carolinians. That's the kind of poison that's being peddled into this country. The impediments to us enforcing the law, to empowering our law enforcement who are down here at this border. And I want to thank the men and women wearing green and tan who are down here right now. Some of them can't be in front of the camera, but they're the first line of defense. But it's also the policies and what those policies incentivize that matter. I want to thank President Trump and his administration for empowering us through programs like the 287G program. And I'm here to say that the South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division is enrolled in that program, is currently going through its training right now. I spoke with Chief Keel, and under his leadership in South Carolina, State Law Enforcement Division is a participant in enforcing immigration laws at the state level. We had 3 sheriffs out of 46 in South Carolina who were part of that program. Now we have between 15 and 20 in the last 3 months who have signed up to help enforce the immigration laws in South Carolina. And I'll close with this. It's physical border walls. It's the digital borders. The digital borders, like platforms like WeChat, which is a Chinese-owned company that is being used to do peer-to-peer or drug dealers and Chinese nationals who are doing illicit activities in this country. You're able to transfer funds and launder drug money. It's being used on platforms like WeChat. We have a duty to not just defend this wall, but we have a duty to defend the digital wall between what's out there and what's in the United States. So I'm proud to stand here with my colleagues today who are on the front lines enforcing and supporting President Trump's agenda. And I look forward to continuing to work with him to defend that agenda as it seeks to promote safety and security in the United States of America. Now I'm going to be followed by my very dear friend from the southern state of South Dakota.
Thank you for being here. Marty Jackley, South Dakota Attorney General. The fentanyl and methamphetamine that has crossed this border has been devastating to the heartland. It's been devastating to South Dakota communities and families. In South Dakota last year, South Dakota law enforcement confiscated enough fentanyl to overdose every South Dakotan 5 times over. As South Dakota's former United States Attorney, and Attorney General, I applaud and encourage the Trump administration to continue its efforts to close this border and to enforce our immigration laws across the United States. As South Dakota's Attorney General, I'm proud to announce that I have authorized our DCI to move forward on the 287G process so that our DCI agents can force multiply with federal authorities when it comes to enforcement of our immigration laws and addressing the violent crime and drug dealers that are coming into South Dakota that are not here legally. It has been a breath of fresh air to see firsthand the men and women in law enforcement, to be here with my colleagues, state attorney generals, and to see federal, state, and local authorities working together to make America safe again. I'm privileged to be able to now introduce my fellow colleague, Derek Brown, the Attorney General of Utah.
Thank you. We appreciate everyone for being here. We have a wall behind us that is somewhat symbolic in some respects, but it is incredibly important because there is far more than that, as we found out, that's going on. Having an administration that's willing to tackle the hard problems and make some of the really hard decisions has made all the difference here. As one of the newer attorneys general, I'm the Attorney General of Utah, but as one of the newer ones, I have come to realize that behind me, we have a group of attorneys general from around the country, and the fact that they've taken the time and energy and effort to come here in this location and see what's going on firsthand shows the level of commitment to making sure that we solve this problem and that we do it in a humane way. The state of Utah, as we have said for a long time, even though we're not a border state, we are in fact a border state. We have highways traversing our state, and when drugs cross the border here, they're in Utah within a matter of hours. I recently met, in fact, with a couple whose son overdosed on fentanyl, and the availability of fentanyl that came from here in this area is mind-boggling. In fact, just to put this in perspective, the DEA recently announced the largest drug bust in history, including, among other things, 3 million fentanyl pills. There were 5 states involved in that drug bust. One of them, in fact, was the state of Utah, my state. So like I said, we are all border states, and so it is incredibly important, and I'm committed to making sure as an office that we're able to tackle this problem. I'm also happy to announce that the Utah's Department of Corrections has now signed a 287G agreement with the federal government, which will allow for more collaboration so that we can address this issue. So on that note, I'd like to introduce my colleague from the state of Mississippi, Lynn Fitch.
Lynn Fitch from the state of Mississippi, and I first want to say to all of our heroes that work in law enforcement, our federal, our state, our local partners that protect us every single day. We could not do without these heroes. I'm so grateful to President Trump, General Bondi, Secretary Noem, and all the administration who said we're going to protect the border. We're going to provide resources. We understand this is a humanitarian effort. This is a fentanyl crisis effort. It's a crime effort, and we have to change the dynamics, and they did. And so it's exciting for all of my colleagues and all of us to be a part of that, to uphold the rule of law in all of our respective states. Many have announced that we have expected the 287G. In Mississippi, we're the first law enforcement agency to sign one. We partnered. We've got 80 certified law enforcement officers on my team that we're out there getting trained. We're readily available. We've already gone out with ICE and made a couple of arrests, and we're getting ready to deport those individuals. I too meet with too many family members who have lost loved ones due to this fentanyl crisis. It has to stop. We have to continue to protect these individuals and no longer lose any more lives. And certainly we see the trafficked victims. They're at prey. They've been leveraged on. And so for us, we have to protect them. They're victims who didn't ask to be in this situation. The cartels have been driving them forward. And so for us, we're all standing strong to help our victims. So again, I'm very, very grateful to be a part with my colleagues as we stand strong together and united behind President Trump and his administration. Thank you.
Senate President Peterson and Sheriff Rhodes will give a local perspective. Thank you all for being here this morning or this afternoon. It's an incredible honor to stand here with all these attorneys general from across the country. It turns out we didn't need a new law, we just needed a new president. And under Biden's unprecedented open borders, America suffered from drugs, from human trafficking, from unprecedented crime. And it was these AGs standing behind me who were the last line of defense, who were the red wall that were protecting Americans from the devastating consequences of Biden's open border policies. Thank goodness we now have President Trump, who is simply enforcing the law, taking crossings from 1,400 a day all the way down to 4 a day. Now here in Arizona, we are a border state, and as it has been said, because of the crossings here, every state behind me becomes a border state. But we had to take action because the Biden administration was willfully not enforcing the law. So we introduced and passed the Arizona Border Security Act. Our governor negligently vetoed the bill, so we sent it to our voters and they passed it 2-1, knowing that we needed to be protected from illegal immigration. Now that we have the Trump administration, things have shifted. Instead of playing defense, now we can play offense and collaboration with President Trump as we help him to protect the border. So now we have introduced the Arizona ICE Act. I was the author of the Arizona ICE Act, but I want to actually thank A.G. Kobach. He helped me author the Arizona ICE Act. And this act simply says that we won't stop or obstruct the federal government from enforcing immigration law. So going forward, Arizona is going to continue to use all the tools that we have to help the Trump administration to make Arizona and consequently America safer. Thank you all so much. I want to now introduce our incredible law enforcement. We've got 2 sheriffs here that have made this trip. We've got Sheriff Wilmot. I want to acknowledge him. He's here on the front lines, and we're going to now hear from Sheriff Rhodes.
Good morning. David Rhodes, Yavapai County Sheriff, President of the Arizona Sheriff's Association, and member of the Board of Directors of the National Sheriff's Association. I want to start off by thanking our Border Patrol partners. They are the ones for the last 4 years who have dealt with the most unprecedented public safety, national security crisis that we've ever seen. You can see how hot it is out here and how dusty it is. They showed up every single day trying to keep the people of this nation safe. Thank you guys. I also want to thank all of the sheriffs, the nation's sheriffs, Arizona sheriffs, and particularly Sheriff Wilmot of Utah County, who's been here over 40 years and has been working very diligently, him and his deputies, working with our federal partners, trying to keep this border secure, and it has been a very tough task. The last 4 years have been the most difficult, unsafe, unsanitary, unreasonable time in the history of this country when it comes to public safety and national security. We as sheriffs spent 4 years in Washington, D.C. at the legislature begging, pleading for law enforcement, resources, common sense policies, aggressive policies, because we knew the one thing which has been true for until the end of time, which is that when people believe that the laws are going to be enforced, they don't break them. And that is the only way that you're going to have a safe and secure nation, is to enforce the nation's laws. And now you've seen 4 years of what no law enforcement on the border looks like, and 100 days of what total law enforcement on the border looks like. And this is what we're getting now. But the job is not finished. Now that the border is under control, now that we've got common sense policies, let me tell you this.
Well, I'll say this, the role of the Attorney General has changed in the last 20 years for both teams, if you will, for both parties. Because of the rules of standing, we are able to get into court, and if there is an allegation that a presidential policy, regulation, order is illegal, then it oftentimes falls to the state attorney general or a collection of them to bring that case. We brought these cases, as I mentioned, in the immigration context of the 31, the vast majority of them succeeded. The Democrat AGs are bringing some cases. I think we're going to see what happens is they'll try to bring them in a favorable jurisdiction, and so the district judge will rule in favor because they've tried to get that district judge. But I think the proof really comes at the Court of Appeals level and at the Supreme Court level. And my prediction is the overwhelming majority of the suits I have seen so far from the Democrat attorneys general will fail, because here you don't have a president who is trying to circumvent the law or violate the law. You have a president who's trying to fully enforce the law, and so they can't find the conflicts that we were able to find in our lawsuits, where it's a direct conflict. The Biden administration was ordering X, and the law says not X. And here they're trying to find some spirit of the law, some vagueness, and I would say